Dragon tag, dragon tag. Today I'm going to do the book Dragon Tag. Hello, my name is Adam W. Rodriguez. Welcome to my channel. I am your host here at the Art of AWR. Today, I thought I would do a booktube tag. I think I'm going to try to do at least one of these every month. I think it's a really cool way to create content and to help booktube kind of get to know me a little bit more. I particularly like tags that still talk about books, although I'll probably end up doing some more tags where it's more introductory and personal questions and stuff like that. But this particular tag is called the Book Dragon Tag. It was created by a fellow named Bookish Chas. That's his channel. That's what his channel is called. And he's great. I enjoy watching him. He has a very kind and warm way about him. I like his book reviews. They're very honest. He's not afraid to tell you what he likes and what he doesn't like about the books that he reads. And a lot of the books that he reads are books that I would probably read as well. Although he does delve more into fantasy books that I've never heard of. And it's quite cool. He's a little older like me, so his book history is pretty broad. And anyway, his insights are a lot of fun. I'm going to leave his information down in the description of this video so that you can check him out. He's great. One of the things that I like about Bookish Chas is when he does his tags, his booktube tags, he always has this kind of open invitation at the end where he's like, if you're watching this tag, consider yourself, tagged, or consider yourself invited to do the tag. So I decided to take that invitation. Thank you for the open invite, Bookish Chas. I'm totally taking you up on it. So before I begin, I would like to invite you to subscribe to my channel. If you like the idea of watching more videos about books and art and creativity, subscribe to my channel. Give this video a like, and then hit that bell so that you get new notifications every time a new episode drops. Awesome. So let's get into the Book Dragon Tag. So each one of these questions starts off with a dragon's name, and then that dragon's name is sort of associated with the question that follows. So, question 1, Talendor, from Talendore's Guest. Talendore's Guest, by the way, is Bookish Chas's own novel. I just saw a review about it the other day. It sounds fascinating. So, check out the link in the description to Bookish Chas. Check out his videos, and in the description of most of his videos, there is a link to purchase his book. You should check it out. It really sounds super cool. Anyway, the question. So Talendor, from Talendore's Guest. Question. Name a book with an enormous library or book collection. I'm going to go with Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. It's a really, really cool book. I haven't read it yet. I watched the movie with Sean Connery and Christian Slater back in the 80s, maybe 90s, I think. And then there was a TV miniseries with John Turturro. Both are really, really awesome. It's a really compelling story. It's set in the Middle Ages, I think, and it's these monks. He's a Franciscan monk who is also this kind of detective. He's an ex-inquisitor who left the Inquisition when things started getting kind of, tortury and murdery. And the movie was super great. It had Ron Perlman playing a hunchback in it. It was really pretty awesome. Anyway, I've heard a lot of really good things. I've watched a few reviews about Umberto Eco's Name of the Rose. He was this academic who was also an author. So you get a lot of very rich history in the books themselves. So anyway, I'm looking forward to it. I hear it's a bit wordy, but totally worth it. In the book, there is this abbey that these guys are all meeting in to discuss the Franciscan order's fate. And when he shows up, there's been this murder. He has this history of solving murders, so they're asking him to kind of solve it on the DL. Inside this abbey, there is this secret library, but it's supposed to be this immense labyrinth that people can get lost in, and it's kept under very secure lock and key. So he has to find like secret passages to access this library labyrinth, and once they are in there, they have to find ways to navigate this labyrinth, this maze, of books and stairs. It's really, really super cool. And anyway, that was the first thing that popped in my mind when I thought about that first question. That was probably long. I don't know how long I'm going to go on each one of these questions, but let's see what happens. I can be pretty wordy from time to time. Question 2, Sapphira from the Inheritance Cycle. I don't know what that book is. I'll have to check that out. The question, name a book or series that involves bonding to creatures. First thing that's popping in my head is like The Shining, where he kind of bonds to like the house to the hotel, and that's Stephen King. Although it's not a creature. How about Perrin from the Wheel of Time series? I've only read the very first book, but I see where it's going and how Perrin is this character who's bonding with wolves. I think that's really awesome. I'm a big werewolf fan. He's not a werewolf per se, but he's definitely bonding with wolves and has these kind of wolf influence powers. So I'm looking forward to reading some more. I've only read the very first book in Wheel of Time, and Perrin actually was my favorite character in Perrin, and then Matt kind of, and it, usually I'm not too into lead characters, especially characters that are just kind of like, characters that are just like, I'm a chosen one, so you must pay attention to me. So I'm one of those guys who are like, I don't know if I like you yet, you're not my chosen one, So anyway, Perrin from Wheel of Time. That'll be my answer for question 2. Question 3. Drogon from A Song of Ice and Fire. I haven't read any of the books that actually have the dragons in them. Name a book series where one of the character is virtually unstoppable. I read a lot of comics, so naturally like Superman and Dr. Manhattan are popping into my head. But if I'm thinking about novels, maybe like Death from Terry Pratchett, how he's just immortal and eternal. But even Death has kind of got an ending about him. Who else I'm thinking about is like Gandalf. That's going to be my answer. Gandalf from The Lord of the Rings. And it's mostly, you see him die or you think he's dead in the Fellowship, and then he like comes back and you're like, well, if we're coming back, all bets are off, so there's a sort of unstoppable nature to him. In fact, as I continued reading him, I never was worried about Gandalf dying, because even if he died, something might happen, so I would say Gandalf is my answer to question 3, right? 1, 2, 3, yes. So question 4, Balerion the Black Dread from Fire and Blood. I have not read that. I don't know what that is. See what I mean? Like Bookish Chas has all these fantasy books that I've never heard of. The question, name a book or series that has gigantic beasts. And my first thought is Food of the Gods by H.G. Wells. H.G. Wells is one of my favorite sci-fi writers. He's probably the sci-fi guy I've read the most of, other than maybe Philip K. Dick. So yeah, Food of the Gods. The first time I read it, the book cover just had a picture of a chicken or of a rooster with like a human foot in its mouth, and I was just like, I must read this book, and I did, and it was fascinating and cool. And H.G. Wells is pretty rad. It's like super old sci-fi, which I also find really fun and interesting, just kind of seeing the thoughts of the future back in the turn of the century, you know what I mean? And some of it's really, really interesting and compelling. H.G. Wells is one of my favorite authors. Awesome. Next question. Smaug from The Hobbit. I'm very familiar. Read The Hobbit, loved it. Probably my favorite Tolkien book. The question, name a book or series that involves talking animals or beasts. The first book that pops in my head is The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. It's a great book. Some folks think it's just about Mowgli, but there's a couple of other stories in that book, one of which is Rikki Tikki Tavi, which I love. It's one of my favorite books in the Jungle Book. In fact, I like it a little bit more than the Mowgli story. And the Mowgli story is great. It's a wonderful part of the Jungle Book. It's the largest chunk of the Jungle Book. But Rikki Tikki Tavi has got this kind of loyal... it's almost like a loyal dog story, except it's a polecat. It's a weasel, and how he defends this boy from cobras. It's a really, really cool story, and I like it a lot. So, The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. Rudyard Kipling is also one of my favorite authors. Everything of his I've read that I've really liked. Next question. Falkor from The Never-Ending Story. I've only watched the movie. I've never read the book. Maybe I should. The question. Name a book or series where one of the character is extremely lucky. Falkor, the luck dragon. Nice. Lucky. Maybe... first thing that popped in my head was like Longshot from Marvel Comics, who happens to be one of my favorite characters of all time. But okay, let's not do comics. Although I do a lot of comics on my channel here in general. But let's not do Longshot. Who's a lucky? Lucky. Maybe like Wilbur from Charlotte's Web. You know, he's pretty lucky. Like he's about to be eaten the whole time or whatever, and the spider basically saves his life. You know what? I'm going to go with Charlie Bucket from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Oh, wait a minute. I used to know this guy's name. It's like Roald Dhal. It's like a really cool name. It sounds like a fantasy villain's name. The guy who wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Roald Dahl, I think is what it is. It's like Roalddahl, if I'm not mistaken. I could be, because I'm mistaken all the time. But I would say Charlie Bucket's probably the luckiest guy in literature that I can think of. You know, he gets the golden ticket, which is astronomically lucky, and then he gets to have a chocolate factory and have his whole family move in, and, you know, how awesome is that? Lucky guy. It's also a kid's book, I understand that, but it did have some, like, dark stuff in it, so... and he gets to hang out with Gene Wilder. How lucky is that? Lucky Charlie Bucket. You great kid, you. All right, next. Next question. Borch from The Witcher. I haven't read any of the Witcher books. Name a series with shape-shifting creatures. Okay. Well, I just read Dracula by Bram Stoker and Carmilla by J. Sheridan Le Fanu, and that all has some cool shape changing in it. Carmilla changes into a cat, and she's a female vampire, and Dracula changes into a wolf and mist and stuff like that. He's like a wolf in mist, and she's like a cat and shadows, which is interesting. You know, I don't know. That's just an observation. But you know what? I don't even want to say them. I just got this book, and I'm about to read it. So, Werewolf in Paris by, what the heck is his name? It was like Guy something? Guy Endore. Endore? I don't remember. Anyway, it's something like that. But I'm really looking forward to reading it. Werewolf in Paris. It is hailed as the Bram Stoker's Dracula of werewolf literature. So I'm going to sink my teeth into that there bad boy. Yuck. Thank you so much. All right, that was shape changing. Next, Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. Is that a book? Okay, maybe it is. I should check it out. Maybe. I like the movies. Toothless is great in that. He's one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. The question is, name a book/series where someone must tame or train animals. Like, maybe like The Black Stallion, which I read when I was really, really young. You know, like he has to train this Mustang while they're on this desert islands, and then later they train him to be like a racehorse. You know what? I'm going to say The Call of the Wild by Jack London, which is about this dog who he gets like taken from his master. I think some guy like has like gambling debts or something, and he sells this dog, and the dog ends up through, you know, his own little misadventures, ends up becoming a sled dog, and they have to train him to be this badass sled dog. I loved that book when I was a kid. I remember, so You know how like sometimes you read a word and don't hear it said out loud a lot, so you don't know how it sounds out loud. Um, I remember reading The Call of the Wild, and the word dignity came up a lot in the book, and I remember reading it, and in my head I kept thinking that it was pronounced dignity, so I would read it as dignity for the longest time. And I remember one time, like when I was reading aloud in class, I said dignity, and my teacher like just stopped what she was doing. She was like, wait, what? You know. And I remember we spent like 2 minutes talking about it, and she was like, oh, dignity, you know. And it was like, oh yeah, okay, that makes more sense. You know. Of course I was like in, third or fourth grade. So anyway, dignity. Yes, have a little dignity, Adam. Why you have to be all talking about your not being able to associate words? Anyway, that was that. Call of the Wild, Jack London, great book. Next is The Hungarian Hortale by Harry Potter. I have never read a single Harry Potter book. I don't know. It's not really my thing. I'm not into like young adult. And honestly, young adults in general, I have to kind of be tricked into reading it. I've enjoyed young adult books, but it's usually me picking it up not knowing it's young adult. And then I'll be like 5 or 6 chapters in going, this feels really young. Is this young adult? I'm going to finish it anyway. That happens. That happens all the time. So The Hungarian Horntail, name a book/series that involves a competition. Okay. I'm thinking about like Robin Hood, like the archery competition. There are so many versions of Robin Hood, and honestly, I couldn't name any specific authors. If you've read a cool version of Robin Hood, put it in the comments below, and I want to sift through all the versions of Robin Hood. But I want a good one. You know what I mean? Give me something that's got some grit. I like things dark. I like things a little gritty. But I want it to be a good Robin Hood story that sticks to a lot of the tropes that we're used to for Robin Hood. But I don't mind if it's a little darker. So put that in the comments if you guys have read versions of Robin Hood. But anyway, back to the question. Name a book or series that involves a competition. I'm going to go with Ivanhoe, since I'm talking about Robin Hood, because Robin Hood is featured in the book Ivanhoe, which I think is one of the reasons why I read it in the first place. But it itself is a really badass book. It was written by Sir Walter Scott, and it's this book about a knight who returns from the Crusades. His old life is in turmoil. He's trying to reclaim. I think when he returns, they think he's a traitor, so he has to kind of return in secret and like regain his honor and all that stuff. And part of it are some of these jousts and championships where he himself as a knight has to go through all these games. So that'll be my answer. Ivanhoe by Sir Walter Scott. Great book. Okay, cool. Last question. Errol from Guards. Man, I just bought this book and I haven't read it yet, but I'm really, really excited to start. I've only read one Sir Terry Pratchett book, and that was The Color of Magic, and I thought it was pretty good, but I wasn't like super enticed to read more. And then the more I started reading about Sir Terry Pratchett, and I watched a few videos from booktubers about Terry Pratchett on like what's the best way to read Terry Pratchett and all that kind of stuff. I just watched that series on the BBC, The Watch, and I was just like, I love this. I wish this is the Terry Pratchett that I want. And apparently there's just like a whole series of just city guard books, and it starts with the Guards. So that's why I'm excited to start reading it, and I hope that my opinion of Terry Pratchett just keeps going up after that. I don't have a bad opinion of Terry Pratchett. I like him. But Color of Magic felt a little clunky, but then it was his first book in that series, and I've heard even the most ardent fans of Terry Pratchett say it's not really his best book in that series as well. So I'm taking suggestions on good starters, and Guards is a good starter. So anyway, that's me rambling about Guards. The question, this is the last question, by the way. Name a book/series with presumed misfits. First thought is like It, like The Losers Club with Stephen King. Didn't I already mention a Stephen King book? Oh yeah, The Shining. But anyway, I don't want to do Stephen King. You know what? I'm going to do a play. I haven't done a play yet here on my lists, and the first thing that pops in my head is The Elephant Man. It was written by Bernard. Oh man, Bernard Pomerance. Bernard Pomerance, I think is his name, and it's a great play about John Merrick, the Elephant Man. If you're not familiar, he was this guy who suffered from a disease that that misshaped his head and his body and his bones, and he spent his young days in carnivals as a sideshow person, and he was eventually found by this doctor and brought to this hospital to live out the rest of his days, and they studied him because of his rare disorder. But the play itself is about him kind of developing relationships that he never thought he could, you know. And it's very moving, very interesting, and it's a guy who has been a misfit and called a freak all of his life, being able to have a human experience, and he ends up being lovely and gentle and poetic, and it's a really good story. David Lynch did a movie with Anthony Hopkins, and John Hurt played the Elephant Man. It was very moving. It's probably one of those few David Lynch movies that like makes sense from beginning to end. Not to dog too hard on David Lynch. I love David Lynch. He's a great filmmaker, and I love his artistic visions. You know, we all know that he can be a little weird. Even he says so, and he says to embrace the weird. So, you know, awesome. David Lynch is the best. Cool. That was the end of the questions. Then it says here at the bottom to tag some friends. And as I said at the top, I don't have a lot of booktube friends. I mean, I'm definitely friendly with some folks. So what I am going to do, this will be, you know, one of my first tags. So I'm going to take a page from Bookish Chas's book and just say, if you're watching this, consider yourself tagged in this dragon tag. The dragon tag is pretty new. Bookish Chas created it not too long ago, a couple of months ago, maybe 3 months ago. And so it'd be nice to see this tag get a little bit of traction. I think it's fun. I like talking about dragons, and I think the list is pretty cool too with the questions on it. So yeah, why not? Give it a try. It could be lots of fun. Have fun, people. That's what we want to do, right? Talk books and have fun and make friends. If you want to end up doing this, leave it in the comments below. Like, hey, I'm doing this, because maybe next time I will see that you're interested in doing tags and interested in some of my videos, and then I'll go, hey, so like the next time I do a tag, maybe I'll be like, hey, so-and-so who commented on my dragon book tag video, how about doing another tag or stuff like that. So anyway, it's me trying to help build a little bit of community, some friendships and relationships with other folks. And this is enjoyable. I enjoy this kind of stuff. So I've got some more book reviews coming down the pipe. I've got 2 or 3 books that I just finished not too long ago that I'm still doing a little bit of research before I do the reviews, but more reviews are coming. Thank you guys for watching this rambly book tag of mine. Thank you, Bookish Chas, for this fun tag. And I will see everyone next time right here on The Art of AWR. Ciao.